6 practices in now?
Yes, sir.
What are you learning about the guys that you have now that you're not quite at that halfway point of spring practice?
Yeah, it's been fun to watch them because they're eager. They want to learn. The pace of practice, the style of practice, the structure of practice is different. So they're learning, and I have to be patient and understand that. But the guys are eager. They like to compete. So that's been a good thing to see. Defensively, there's been a ton of energy. Obviously, I know that kind of the perspective of the defense last year, but I tell you what, those guys have been impressive so far. Just you can tell Coach Rudd coaches with a lot of energy. It's feeding. The guys are feeding off of it. Offensively is a little bit tougher because there's a lot more details, offensively, and we don't have quite as many offensive linemen as we would like. So from a depth standpoint, those guys are getting worn out really quickly with the pace of practice. The backs today, I thought the backs ran hard. Mike was a pleasant surprise. He's a guy that I've been challenging really, really hard in practice. Very talented. But has to improve his practice habits and just his demeanor in practice. But today, I guess he's a gamer, so to speak. So when we got off the field, I saw a couple runs that caught my attention. But overall, it's a good group of guys. They're eager to learn. They come to work every single day, and they're learning how to strain and push themselves.
In terms of installing things on both sides of the ball, how quickly has that process gone? Is it moving at the pace you hope?
It's happening a little faster on defense, and again, a lot of times on defense, you just got to get those guys lined up. You get them lined up, they have a chance. Offensive football, it's a lot of communication, and Coach Rudd does a good job of changing fronts. And anytime you move a defender, 5 inches on the offensive line, all the calls change. And with the depth issues that we have, we don't have the continuity. So what's happening is it's just taking a little bit longer for things to come together up front. Not because they're not working hard and they don't want to. It's difficult. And to be effective on offense, it starts with the 5 guys up front. And we've had guys up and down with a couple of guys sick and out. And Charlie's down with a little bit right now with a high ankle sprain. So we're just mixing and matching, and it's tough on Brandon, it's tough on the wideouts because they can't create their timing. So offensively, it's just a function of depth more so than the guys not being able to grasp the install. And then defensively, they got more depth than we got, and then they're able to get those guys playing fast and moving around.
When you look at where you started, is this where you would think your team would be 6 practices into spring? Are you happy where they are?
I'm happy. I was hoping that offensively we'd be a little bit further ahead. But as I step back and I look at the big picture, I'm not disappointed because of the depth situation. I mean, we got 10 linemen, and there's been days when we've had 8 linemen. And so if you're running 2 groups, you need at least 10 linemen. So that means guys are doing double duty. You got Leach is going from right tackle to left guard to right guard. Justice is playing center. He's playing guard. I mean, you got Divine's playing guard and tackle. And when you're installing new offense, new schemes, different calls, different verbiage, that's tough for those guys up front.
And you mentioned Mike. I remember in one of the first press conferences you wanted to know about the running back room.
That's right.
What has kind of stand out about room, maybe among Boston as well?
Right. Ronnie was having the best up until he got hurt the other day in practice in one of our first live segments. He took a shot on his leg, and he'll be out for a little while. But he was having a really, really good start to spring. Just very consistent, workman-like. He's going to do what you ask him to do. Folston is just trying to feel the offense. It's a little bit different. Outside zone, inside zone from 3 different alignments. That's tough on the back. And Mike, as I said, I believe is the most talented of the group. But he's starting to come on now. The first couple of days we were on him pretty hard, just with his practice habits, the little things, just trying to go above and beyond. And that's what I'm trying to get established with everybody, that whatever the somebody else suggests, that's just a suggestion. Like, that's not our standard. Our standard is set above what anybody else expects of us. So he's one guy that I'm just trying to pull through the knothole to get him, and he wants to, but he's got to be consistent.
In the grand scheme of things,
Yes.
In your offense, how important is it to have a running game you can count on?
Oh, it's critical. I mean, it's critical, and And just we want to be balanced. And again, sometimes that gets misinterpreted. Some people think, well, you got to be 50-50 run to pass. No, that's not what we're saying. When we say balance, is that we're effective running the ball. And sometimes that means, 3 yards is an effective run. If you can stay ahead of the chains, or you can convert a short yardage running the ball. That's what we're trying to establish. And then just for us offensively and from a team standpoint, being able to run the football kind of sets the tempo for the team. It forces the defense to practice against the run, and now they're developing that physical mindset. You have a physical mindset up front, and then you have confidence that when the game's on the line, it's time for you to go run the football, that you can go convert whatever you need to convert running the football. So it's critical to our success.
With all the transfer portal and
Right.
all the transfers, how much of that how long do you expect that to go on, and is this going to go daily changes?
So right now we're monitoring the transfer portal just like any school is. You're starting to see this is the time of year. Another wave of guys are starting to go in, but we're not ready to make any decisions on the transfer portal until we fully evaluate the guys that we have. Now, just being transparent, the roster, we got 56, scholarship guys right now, and then I think we got, another. Last time I counted, I think I said we were going to get up to about 77 with the guys coming in. So we still have, what would that be? That'd be 8 spots that we got to fill just because of attrition. So we're actively looking at it, but we're not actively pursuing anybody right now because we do have some guys that are on the way that we think can help us. And obviously with Ronnie's situation, that kind of changed things from a perspective of running back. If he's going to be out for an extended period of time, you may have to look at that. So there's conversations that we're having, but we're not actively recruiting any guys right now. We want to fully evaluate the roster and then see what would be the best use of that, because trying to establish a culture, it's hard to establish a culture if you're trying to bring in transfers that'll just get here in the summer right before you start the season. We're trying to build the program with the guys that we have in-house, and then going forward we want to try and continue to build the program with high school guys, but understanding that in this day and age with attrition, you're gonna have to be in the transfer game. But I don't want to be a team that's constantly trying to get better through free agency. I want to build through the draft and then supplement the roster where you need to from a transfer standpoint.
This is your second practice at Scott Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it feel like kind of walking out there? What do you remember about your first time coming to Scott?
Yeah, so first time it was pretty cool. Kind of sunk in like man, wow, this is really happening. And then today you could see, and that's what I told the guys. We're on sacred ground. There's a lot of former players that got blood, sweat, and tears equity in that field. And when we step on the grass in Scott Stadium, there's a certain standard that we got to play to. So it's really starting to settle in and become real for me. When I stand out there and you see your team practicing in the stadium, and you got the music going, and you got some recruits that kind of make up your fan base for practice. It was pretty cool today. So I had a moment where I just kind of stood down by the scoreboard side and just kind of looked out and was like, man, this is actually real.
Along the lines of the offense, Brennan mentioned how he liked how diverse the offense can be. Do you want to be able to give the defense so many different opposing defenses, so many different looks, and how does that factor into it?
And this is a different spring than let's say next spring because you're installing the offense and you're trying to see what the guys are capable of. You're trying to see what fits your personnel. You're exposing them to a huddle. Where you want to have that element of your offense. We may not be in the huddle a bunch, but you want to install that, and then you want to have your complementary plays from the huddle. Then each run scheme, you want to have your naked, your play passes, all those things off of it. So the volume, right now, is diverse and a lot. But once we get to the season or game planning, you'll pare it down, and then you'll be able to pull from what you did in the spring or fall camp to be able to fit the defensive structure that you're going against. Yep.
Chico Bennett was a guy that was at Georgia Tech before this, and he got injured last year after transferring. Do you remember anything about him at Georgia Tech? Because I know Clemson played with him a lot. Just kind of what have you seen?
Yeah, I don't. I can't say that I remember him from Georgia Tech, but I tell you what, he's flashed a little bit here this spring. He's a guy that that's got ability. He's a high character young man. Has great leadership qualities, and so it's good to see him have some success on the field thus far this spring.
We talked about this crowded wide receiver room a lot. Malachi Fields is a guy who's a younger guy, a local guy too. Just what have you seen from him kind of going into that second year for him?
Right, man, he's pushing Lavelle, and that's no secret. Everybody knows, and it's been made known in front of the team that Malachi is pushing Lavelle, which is going to be good for Lavelle because it's going to make him better. Obviously, he's coming off of injury, and he's still knocking the rust off. But what you're seeing is Malachi plays fast. He's a big physical guy. He's very conscientious. Doesn't say a whole lot. He just shows up and make plays. So I'm very, very, very pleasantly pleased with Malachi. And then when you have a combination of like him and Lavelle, and you can put him into the boundary, and then you throw Wicks over there and you change up the speed, and that's probably what Brendan's talking about, the diversity you can put. In this system, you can put guys wherever you want to put them to create matchups and isolate, and then obviously change up the personnel and the speed on different defenders.
I know that Des knew Taylor from South Carolina a little bit. What was the determining factor? Whose idea was it to bring Taylor, him on board, and
Right.
what do you like about him?
So as we were constructing the staff, the question was who was going to coach quarterbacks, because Des could easily coach quarterbacks, and we talked about it, but we felt like we needed to go get a young quarterback guy that was an up and coming guy that was going to be very, very successful in the future, and we brought in 3 guys. We interviewed 3 guys, and he won the interview process. And so it wasn't anything that was given to him, even though I have relationships with his dad. Des has relationships with his dad. He earned the job. And what you like about Taylor is he's got he's got the credibility as a player. And he was a really, really good player at App State. He comes from a coaching family, so you can see the pedigree, you can see the development, you can see the confidence that he has. And just in the interview process, you could just see how he could command the room with the other coaches. And that's what the determining factor was. And so initially we thought about Dez, possibly coaching quarterbacks, and then bringing in somebody else to coach the running backs and tight ends. But then as Dez thought about it more, he said he probably wanted to call it from the tight end position. So we said, let's go get a young quarterback guy that could come in here and relate to Brennan, but then also provide us good stability going forward with developing guys and going and recruiting quarterbacks.
You mentioned Ronnie as a guy who was injured. Anyone else that's sidelined for spring?
For spring, just the guys that have been out already. Logan's, been out. Logan Taylor, he's still trying to work back. Wentz is still trying to work back. Billy's still trying to work back. Jonas is still trying to work back. Bratton's still trying to work back. Several of those guys are out. Teeter on the offensive line. I talked about Sanker, Bratton, Dunkel, Beal, Kemp, Cross, and then you got Taylor and Wentz. They're no contact. And then Bryce Carter and Burke we're working back into practice here pretty soon. But Ronnie's the latest addition to a guy that's going to be out for the remainder of spring.
Anybody else pop into your head immediately just having a really good spring?
Lex Long showed up today at safety, made a couple plays. Ben Smiley flashes. Famuyi's been very solid. Bryce Carter is not Bryce, but Jameer Carter's been disruptive inside. Nick just does what Nick does. Nick Jackson. Trying to think offensively, guys.
That's not a defense guy.
Yeah, because today it was a little bit lopsided with the work. Now to the offense, Leach. Leach is a guy that's caught my attention. Trying to think of who else.
How about the guy over at the baseball park?
Jay, yeah, he's caught my attention in baseball. I don't get him much for football, but that's how cool is that though? I mean, how cool is that? I mean, how many people? I remember when I was growing up, that was the thing. You had Dion, you had Brian Jordan, you had all the Bo Jackson, you had all these guys. Frank Thomas didn't do it at the pro level, but he did it in college, and so I'm actually excited for him and happy for him. And I had a question that earlier in the week: what would happen if UVA kept on winning and got all the way to the World Series. What would you do with Jay in football? I said nothing. He's gonna help them guys try and go win a championship if they're fortunate enough to get there. And I'm gonna be right there in the stands with my little boys. We're gonna be watching it. We're gonna go root Coach O'Connor and those guys on. But man, how impressive are those guys? And they're playing some really, really good baseball, and just excited that he's contributing. And that's the biggest thing for me. There's a lot of guys that want to do both, and there's guys that don't want to run track, and I have no problem with them doing two sports, just as long as they're contributing.
He had a pretty good game against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I haven't. So I'm just
Football.
Yeah.
What's about
Yeah.
in football? Oh, you talking about in football?
When
Oh, you talking about when he came
played
in?
Notre Dame,
When
yeah.
Jay
I got you.
started, yeah.
I got you. I thought you were talking about in baseball. I was like, I didn't know if they played Notre Dame yet. So, I got you.
We've got time for a couple more questions.
Defensively, you guys do that tackling circuit earlier. Have
Yep.
you seen improvements there, tackling wise?
Today, when we evaluate the film, we'll be able to see. I did see a couple missed tackles there, but I also saw some really good open field tackles, and that's the name of the game: getting guys on the ground.
In the big picture, though, just are you seeing strides there, just defensively?
Well,
Physicality?
with the way we're structured in practice, we don't get as much of the live contact stuff. So we're just now getting into the portion of our spring where we got a lot more live work. So we'll go. Today was half the practice you could be live. When we come back on Monday, it's a full third day where we can't have any contact to the ground, and then we're going to scrimmage on next Wednesday. Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Yep.
Has anything popped out at you that you didn't expect that's been a pleasant surprise that you've thought to yourself, man, that can help us come fall?
Trying to think. I think the young corner, Simpkins, has shown that he can help us. Very talented, and he's really engaged right now. I think before he was kind of on the fence, but now he's fully engaged, and you're starting to see his athleticism take over. And I think James Jackson is a guy that's going to help us. And I tell you, Lorenz Terry has been a guy that has flashed a little bit that can be somebody that's going to help us. And Sue is one that I want to see a little bit more before I say, because he's been out with a little bit of sickness for a couple practices. We just got him back today.
Okay, thank you.